Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat teaching by Rabbi Rebecca Schatz.
I want to focus on something that I'm sure you've all focused on before, or at least heard others focus on before. And that is, and you can open up your Chumashim, I'll tell you a page. It's chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. So it's on page 9. It starts on page 9 and then it's going to go on to page 10. And I'm going to purposefully translate these verses without using the word man for Adam. Now, many of us know in regular society that the name Adam, there's a guy you all know with that name pretty prominently in this institution, is a typical male name. But Adam in our Torah is not man. It's just human. We get the word ish later on, which means man, but Adam just means the first human on the earth. So I'm going to very purposefully translate Adam as human and not as man. So I just want to point that out for how we're going to look at these verses, and you'll see why in just a moment. So verse 26, I know for those of you who come to Beitenu very regularly, I know that normally I would call on someone else to read, but because I have the microphone and we have people listening on Zoom and live stream, I want to make sure that they can hear everything. So I'm going to do the reading. Chapter 1, verse 26 says, Vayomer Elohim na'aseh Adam betzalmenu kidmutenu. And God said, let's make Adam, let's make a person in our image, in our likeness. V'yirdu vidgat hayam uve'of hashamayim uvevehema uvechol haaretz uvechol haromes al haaretz. And this human is going to rule all of the fish of the sea and the beasts and the like that are on our land. Okay. Vayivra, you can turn the page to page 10. Elohim et ha'adam. And God created the Adam. Betzalmo betzelem Elohim bara oto. So God created this human in his image. In the likeness of God, God created him. Zachar unekeva bara otam. Male and female, God created them. What are your questions about these verses? Specifically this verse, but I wanted to give you the context of the verse before. Great. Okay. So it seems like maybe God is both male and female because first of all, it's in the plural. Jenny didn't say this, but I'm going to add. First of all, it's in the plural. And second of all, if you're making something in your image and you're saying it has these two parts, then I must also have those two parts because I am saying that I'm making this thing in my likeness. So if my likeness is Zachar Nekeva, well then so too is going to be the thing that I create. I saw another hand. Yeah. God doesn't like his creation? Okay. Sure. Great. So how are you connecting that to this verse? That's true. How are you connecting it here? Right. Great. Perfect. Okay. So there's the connection. So the connection being made here is if God is making human in God's likeness, well then how come in just a few minutes we're going to hear that God doesn't really think that humans are all that? Right? If humans aren't super great, then how are they being made in God's image? Great question. Yeah. Is the man now exhibits out in the world as a likeness of God, or are the two things separate? That was Aaron's question. Dan. Great. Who's the hour? Who is God creating people in the image of? It says it in the plural. Who's the hour? Who's the hour image? Right? That goes back to the original question of, was God also male and female? Right? Or was God at least more than just one God? Was there a multiple? Were there angels? That's what the rabbis in the Midrash tend to say. But who is the hour? Who's being created in the hour image? Yeah. Great. Okay. So we're going to jump off of this particular kushia into the text study. I think Bonnie had the same question because I heard her say, yeah. There's oto and then there's also otam. So what Rick was just mentioning is that it says, B'Tselem Elohim bara oto, in the image of God, God created him, right? Him is specific here because of the way that it's written in the Hebrew. Zachar unekeva bara otam. Male and female, he created them. So is the oto one person and the otam two people? Or is the oto one person and then becomes a one person that exhibits both male and female? So we're going to look at that as my main kushia as well. And Cantor 20 is going to help me pass out these source sheets. Maybe Joey, you can also help me pass out a few of these source sheets. Just closest to me. Rabbi, do you mind? While they're being passed out, I just want to point out one more thing in your Chumash. The part that Rick actually read today, chapter 5, you'll see in the first verses of the piece that he read, it says, again, many of you know there's two creation stories in Parshat Breshit. This is the middle of the second creation story, and it says here, Zachar unkeva bara'am, right, which is the same idea that male and female, they were created. So I just wanted to show that even in the second creation story, because I assumed that this might be a question that is brought up later, that it here too, that they are created together. Yeah, Rick? Yeah, beautiful. Right, and they're blessed. Great. And they're blessed also as Otam. Beautiful. Thank you for adding that. Okay. Thank you. So just because of time, we're not going to get through all of these sources, but I hope that you'll read through some of them. I want to point out that in our Torah, we very much in the creation story talk in binaries. We talk in sun and moon and light and dark and heavens and earth. Everything is a binary until we get to humans. And we explore that right now. What we are expecting in this first human is Zachar and Nekeva, male and female. Now, as we know from the creation story, when it continues on, we know that they were at some point split. So we know that there was one creation that became two creations. We hear in the second version of the creation story a different way that man was created, right? One was with a rib being taken out or maybe a side. We can talk about that another year on Breshit, that the other person was created. Then in the other creation story, that there was the element of breath and of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking of like Play-Doh, taking them kind of from the same element and breaking them apart. So we know that there was a singular entity, this Adam, that became two. But here in the verses that we're looking at right now, that comes during this creation story of binaries, of opposites, that we are seeing here, that in fact is just one thing. It's just one creation, one human that exhibits both, Zachar and Nekeva. So what Rashi says is, male and female, God created them. I'm sorry I didn't get rid of the he there. The he is God in that particular translation. And further on it is said, and God took one of his ribs, is what I was just referring to. But according to a midrashic explanation, God created Adam at first with two faces, and afterwards God divided Adam. But the real sense of the verse is, here it tells you that both of them were created on the sixth day, but it does not explain to you how their creation took place. It's explained to you in another place, Rashi said. Rashi just wants you to keep learning. So how is Rashi describing this? Rashi is describing Zachar and Nekeva as having two faces. Okay, so the rabbis are going to explore these different ways of Zachar and Nekeva. Chizkuni, who's from 13th century, also from France, says that Zachar and Nekeva bara otam is that they were quite literally in the same body, male and female. When we get to the Orach Chaim in 18th century Morocco, he says, it also wants to tell us that God created Adam with two images. The first is the image that is recognizable in all humans, and even in humans that are empty of holiness. Right? Basically what he's saying is not able to connect to the Torah, not connect to the rituals that are in front of us. About them it states in God's image, the explanation of which is the image of the creature, And the second is the level of the happy ones, the people of Israel. He's unfortunately comparing Jews to non-Jews. I'm trying to compare them now to people who are connected to that which brings them spiritual fulfillment and those who do not. So you can choose who you agree with. The inheritance of God's field corresponding to those, it states, in the image of God, God created Adam. Behold, it comes to teach us that there are two images among the creations. So in each one of us, there are two creations. The image that is recognizable, that Adam is a human. We walk around this earth and no one wonders, oh, are you know that you are human? That doesn't mean that they know what you possess. That doesn't mean that they know what you believe, how you feel, how you experience the world. And then there's the image of God, which is spiritual and hidden. So then there's the part of you that is on the inside, that you have to choose to share. It's not the part of you that is obvious to the world, that you are a human, that you are walking around this earth like the others walking around this earth of our kind. But it's the inside part of you that you share that makes you unique. So that's a very different, a very beautiful, but a very different explanation of this. Now turn the page over. Radak in 12th century is very straightforward. He says, okay, Zachar Nekeva bara otam. That means things, but he's saying just like before, it seems very obvious to us that a human was made both male and female. Now, I'm not going to read the Yosef Karo piece, though it is quite interesting. And this is a diary that he kept that was put out in 1646. But I'll just give you the premise of it. He's basically referring to the possibility that a male can have a female soul and vice versa. That we can walk around in the world as presenting one way in our life that society defines us as, but on the inside of us, we might actually feel completely different. And again, even just saying male versus female soul is already characterizing stereotypes. But what it means is that you might feel different than the way that you are presenting yourself to the world. Now, we in the 21st century are very aware of this happening because we've been amongst people who have either based on their pronouns or based on transitioning to a different gender have said to us, I was born this way. I am presenting, however, and I feel and I am choosing to be in the world as what I feel on the inside of me, and that is this way. Abby Stein, who many of you have probably heard of, she also spoke at Temple Beth Am as part of one of our series at the beginning of COVID, grew up in the Hasidic world in Brooklyn as in a family as a Hasidic little boy and grew up to become a Hasidic rabbi and then wrote really beautifully about how she always felt like she was a girl. That she always felt on the inside of her soul that that's who she was. And today she presents on the outside of her that who she feels on the inside, and that's who she is. And so one of the things that she speaks about, this is actually the underlined piece is actually her commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. One of the things that she so often speaks about is it's very clear to us that there are ways in which we can feel something on the inside, just like the Orach Chaim was saying on the other page, that we don't necessarily see on the outside. And it's our job to probably share more of that with the world so that we're more aware of the things that are on the inside that can affect how we are on the outside. Breshit Rabbah is a midrash from around the 6th century, and it says the following. And we're gonna actually finish with this. And I'm sorry that I've done it quickly and frontally. This is a topic that deserves much more attention and many more sources. But I also don't want to keep you all here until tomorrow. So Breshit Rabbah says, and God said, let us make Adam in our image, in our shape, which is interesting. Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Elazar said, when Hashem created Adam Harishon, the first human, he was created as both genders. Thus it is written, male and female did God create them. Rabbi Shmuel ben Bar Nachman said, when Hashem created Adam Harishon, God created Adam with two faces, one on each side. And when God made Chava, God split him along the middle, forming two backs. They challenged him, but it is written, and God took one of his ribs. God said to them, Mitzaltav doesn't mean rib, it means one of his sides, similar to that which is said, and to the tzela, to the side of the Mishkan, which is translated the side of the Mishkan. Rabbi Abby Stein writes here, the Midrash, classical Jewish exegesis, adds that the first human being formed in God's likeness was an androgynous, an intersexed person. Hence, our tradition teaches that all bodies and genders are created in God's image, whether we identify as men, women, intersex, or something else. I wanted to bring this today, not because I think it's so not so new. It's not something that you've never heard before. It's not something that is enlightening, I hope, to your life, nor to our community. But I want to bring it because I think it's remarkable that this is in the first chapter of our Torah. It is remarkable that in the first chapter of our Torah, we recognize that human dignity, that accepting a person for who they are, is more important than defining for them what they look like on the outside, and therefore must be for us. It is extremely, extremely special that in our Torah, that the entire creation story is all about opposites and all about fish in the sea and birds in the sky and separation, 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 separation. And then it comes to people and it's all about bringing everything together. We see it here in this Zachar Nekeva Bara Otam, and we also see it in Lo Tov Hiot Adam Levado. It is not good for a person to be alone. Right? We see all of these moments of bringing connection to people, making sure that for people there isn't that distance, there isn't that separation, that we step away from those binaries of the rest of creation and recognize that within a person, there are many different aspects to who that person is, to what makes that person up. There was a blessing that was written for transitioning genders by Rabbi Eli Kukla. I'm not sure if I'm saying that name correctly, but it's on the back of your sheet. And it's 3 different blessings that you know from different places, but they're put together to be this blessing of transitioning genders. And it says, Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir le'ovrim. Blessed are you, Eternal One, O God, ruler of time and space, the transforming one to those who transform or transition or cross over. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani betzalmo. Blessed are you, God, who made me in your image, in my image, in the image that I'm choosing to have today. And then, Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lezman hazeh. Blessed are you, Eternal One, O God, our God, ruler of time and space, who has kept us alive and sustained us and helped us to arrive at this moment. And a piece of Torah that Cantor Chorny once taught me is that you don't just say shehechiyanu for new moments, but that you say shehechiyanu for moments that you hope to happen again and again and again. And so it's not just that in this moment that we are living and that we are thriving, but that we continue to find moments where we can live and thrive and help others to do the same. So I hope that you are able to read our Torah, remembering that even in our tradition, in the first chapter of our tradition, that we are being taught to see people for who they are telling us they are, and for whom they are choosing to be. Whether in this moment or tomorrow or the day after, that we are to see people made in the image of God in all moments of their transition.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.